Hey guys, good to see you. I'm Scott Flanders. If you're familiar with my work, you know that I'm passionate about character design, creature design, and exploring ideas. I'm excited to announce that I've got a new course coming up. It's going to be launching as part of Proko 2.0, the Character Design Monster Lab. You can find out more at proko.com/monsterlab. In the course, you get to see my process as I generate a bunch of ideas and develop them into a more finished piece of digital art. After filling up sheets of sketches, I pick my favorites to flesh out and explore. Then I scan my work and transform it into a lineup of unique characters using my shape carving technique. Along the way, you'll see how I iterate on a concept and select specific elements to hone in on, hammer out details and thematic focal points. It's also packed with advice to help you integrate these ideas into your own workflow. And if you follow along with the course, there will be opportunities to submit your work for critique. I'll be going through the Proko 2.0 community posts and selecting work from premium students, and there's a chance that your work could make it into a feedback video critique. In this free video, you get to see a condensed version of how the Monster Lab course kicks off, the ideation phase. From my perspective, this is an extremely important part of the concept process that all too often gets rushed through. But I think it's important and useful to see how to lay the groundwork for a successful idea. If you'd like to follow along, check out the complete course at proko.com/monsterlab. Have fun and go make some monsters. Typically when I'm starting off, I like to set a clear, a goal for myself, a clear aim or a target. And for me, that begins with my initial prompt, usually a word or a phrase. In this case, it's Harvest Man. This is this character trope or character archetype that Alec and I generated specifically for Monstober. Alec's my sculpting partner for the Monstober events. He's helping me film this right now, actually. He's a really talented artist. You should check him out. Okay, back to the Harvestmen. They're basically little pumpkin-headed monster mutants. They're really fun because it's just a series of organic shapes, so we can really play and freestyle with human anatomy and break rules and push forms and just really do whatever we want. It's right at the top, Monstober. It's like setting your intentions. It's like some hippie shit, but it works. It helps me clarify what I'm up to. Monster Lab, Harvest Man. Now I know what I'm up to. I think it's important to spend some time identifying previously established precedents. We're going to write that down up here. If I have an understanding of what has come before, then I'm better equipped to be able to figure out ways that I can push the needle, raise the bar, contribute to the conversation. So I think initially it started off with, scarecrows. This idea of these harvest man, that's where the term, the idea of a harvest comes from. Pumpkins, The Nightmare Before Christmas, Little Shop of Horrors, Swamp Thing.
What is it about Swamp?
Probably mostly the local color of green, just being a green leafy person. It might be cool to have a big, muscly, tanky harvest man. Imagine if you took Swamp Thing and then plugged the pumpkin head on top. That could be pretty cool. Oh, the Headless Horseman is one for sure. The idea of the disembodied head and the sort of flaming eyes in the jack-o'-lantern. There's something about the idea of a construct that I might have seen it in World of Warcraft or something like that. Wagon wheels and scythes and farm tools. That to me is very interesting. I could see those being interesting accessories. The idea of taking fiddlesticks from League of Legends. I recommend when you do this yourself, you want to make sure you're in a really comfortable situation. You feel, very relaxed, you want to work in your comfort zone. Because you need to be able to tap into a sense of nostalgia and memory. In order to do that, you have to be able to be vulnerable. Avoid judging your ideas too harshly in the early stages. In order to generate new ideas, I need to actually allow myself to play and to let things begin to flow. So now is about the time where I'm going to attempt to play with some ideas and take them a little further. And we sort of touched on it a moment ago when Alec asked me about Swamp Thing, what it was about Swamp Thing that I found interesting. With Swamp Thing, I like the idea of a muscular character or body type. But that's not enough. That's not the only thing I'm looking for. That's just what I'm taking from Swamp Thing. But then I like the idea of the construct, the harvest Golem or like Harvest Hulk, I was thinking. Not like Incredible Hulk, like a hulking thing. So I take that and then I'm incorporating like farm tools. There are many types of farm tools, and I'm listing them out. So scythe, sickle, saws, baling hooks, maybe shovel. I don't know if I'll use shovel, but this is what I mean by not saying no to the idea. Because this may take me somewhere. A shovel, yeah, shovel brings me a pick. A pickaxe, an axe. That's what happened. So I still went, axe is maybe kind of a no-brainer. I should have thought of axe initially, but I didn't. So I allow my brain to sort of like do its work through association with the words. I've started to engage in some of this associative thinking process where I start to like pair some of these ideas. I like the idea of what does a scarecrow have in common with Jack Skellington? There's a kind of like lankiness to it, like spindliness. I'm going to write down. So there's like lankiness, gaunt, spindly, skinny, thick boy harvest man.
Chunky.
Chonk. In some ways, you could think about this list of terms or of words. You could think of them like variables, like in a math equation or something, like in algebra. It's like the more variables you have in an equation, the more complex. So it becomes really useful, like the more variables, more raw materials I have at my disposal, hypothetically, the more complex or sophisticated my ideas could become. Now, I mentioned Little Shop of Horrors in there, and part of what's fun about, what's his name?
Seymour?
Yeah, Seymour. Little Shop of Horrors. Thanks. Little Shop.
Feed me, Seymour. Feed me all night long.
Now, what was it about Seymour? He kind of reminds me of one of those like Mario carnivorous plants, but I bet those are influenced by Little Shop of Horrors, actually. But part of what's cool about a plant is a plant can have multiple stalks, multiple flowers, multiple heads, almost like a hydra, or like in this case on this guy, I gave him multiple heads, like an Etten I like a lot from mythology. It's like a multi-headed giant. Ettins make me think like big and chonk. So I could tell you like big guy, big body, asymmetrical arm, like big massive arm full of tools. And then it's almost like there's a pumpkin patch on top of his body. It's not just a single pumpkin, it's like a whole patch up there, like a bunch of them, a series of heads with all these different fun expressions. And to me, that's part of what's fun about jack-o'-lanterns, like all those possible expressions when you line them up.
Do you think about the attitude of your character at this stage? For example, like a wicked versus a brutish character?
I definitely do. Part of that is lent from those established precedents, these like raw materials or variables. Or if I mention, lanky character, and I'm thinking of Jack Skellington and Fiddlesticks and all these like other creepy, lanky characters, there's a kind of an archetype I'm pulling from that comes with like personality traits. It can kind of seem like hackery, like you're just like, you're just ripping off stuff. And to a certain extent, you kind of are. There's a reason Marvel movies work. There's a reason Star Wars usually works. Is because, they're taking advantage of that like subconscious, like, they're acknowledging or recognizing subconscious archetypes, subconscious associations.
Ratio of familiar to new.
Yeah, ratio of familiar to new, Alec. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, so I feel like I'm getting to something here. I've got this idea of the Etten, the multi-heads, a pumpkin patch. This is what I need to write, because these are some of those, when I say like draw small to think big, or focus on the key ideas or key shapes. This is exactly what I'm talking about. It's not just pumpkin head, it's a pumpkin patch. It's almost like a large plane or a large space atop the shoulders, and then I could generate tons of different heads and plug them all over. And then I have this big arm with a bunch of tools, a saw, a sickle, a scythe. That just gives me this like really wicked, almost like a claw, like a crab claw or a lobster claw. My initial idea, like, look, it's just like a stick man. It's like just this standard dude with a pumpkin on top. And I actually thought that was like kind of cool. I was getting excited about that. But look, when it just like a little bit for further exploration, I get to something that from my perspective is significantly more interesting or promising. And I don't even consider myself done. I don't really feel like I hit the Swamp Thing one. I'm going to try it again, because that was like my very first drawing I did. I mentioned it before when I did the Swamp Thing one, the monkey shoulder, Hellboy slope shoulder thing. Like the long legs, like a little more heroic body type. And I'm kind of on a thing right now with pumpkins. Like if you've ever seen a pumpkin gets really big, Like, because they're full of air inside and liquid, like there's actually like negative space inside, and their mass becomes so heavy that they start to collapse in on themselves and spread out flat. And so doing some heads like that seems kind of fun, a little less round. So I'm going to draw that after I fill in this one. There's a reason I also fill all these in. It's not just design, it's also rehearsal for me. It's like where I get in some of my mileage. I'm like warming up, flexing, stretching, getting better. It's almost like going to a life drawing class. But this is specifically targeting character design. So I'm going to try this one again, the lopsided one. I'm going to take it and make it like list to one side. That's kind of fun. Then you get some of that like zombie, like this thing that like, birds, bobcat. Now I'm swinging back around to Headless Horseman. What is it about Headless Horseman? I go up to the top. It's that idea of like holding a head in your hand, like holding head in your hand. I like that. And I could even try like the Headless Horseman, he has his cape or his cloak. Almost like a highwayman cloak. So I could take that kind of popped collar and put it on one of my... Oh, that's fun, because you have like a popped collar that's sort of fancy, almost like a pompadour, like a cool haircut or something, like a slick haircut. I can take that like stalk at the top of the pumpkin, like where it connects to the vine, and turn that into a big wild curly hairdo. But I've done something like this before. Just my actual like immediate instinct is that I don't really want to sculpt this one. But it's cool for 2D, like it will look... I almost guarantee that this will look good in 2D. Part of the highwayman thing, or they're like robbers, like brigands on the road, and they're known for having like pistols and rapiers, like a rogue's weapons. So I want to do like a kind of a sword, but I want to do like a crisp blade sword. Again, I mentioned the idea of those like pumpkin carving knives with the pumpkin head on top of him, and he's like got a bunch of almost like pumpkin ammunition. And he has, instead of his regular sword or axe, instead of his cavalry saber, he's got the crisp blade. This is how it happens. I say cavalry saber, and I was just going to say, what if instead of cavalry saber, I use the crisp blade? And I was like, what if I combined them? So you still get the curve of the cavalry saber, but then I could bring in the wavy edge that you get on a carving knife. Cavalry sword plus crisp knife. So this brings me to a point, I sort of fast forward, I got caught up in the actual act of what really was my next point, which was how to push your ideas like beyond your initial form. So you saw, like, if you look back, like some of my initial ideas, they're not bad, but they're kind of simple, just like simple pumpkin guys. But as I began to ask more questions, look a little deeper into what it was about each of these precedents, each of these archetypes that I liked, I didn't just say, oh, I like Swamp Thing, or I like, Seymour from Little Shop of Horrors. I didn't just copy his shape and turn that into a pumpkin. I just asked myself, what is it about Seymour that's cool to me? And then I use that to inject or integrate into my character design. I have to actually think about this, like where to begin. If I'm sort of like take a step back and ask myself a question. Scarecrow. So I put Scarecrow down. That was like one of the first things I listed. So I'm going to go back to Scarecrow here. I started to go down the road of like, oh, Pumpkinhead, like covered with the straw hat and the flannel, blah, blah. But that kind of took me into Batman territory. And I just am not interested in going there. It's like done enough. Like Scarecrow's cool. I just don't even want to bother with it though. But what I like is the Scarecrow as a potential prop. And how is the Scarecrow used? It's used to ward things away. It almost looks like a flag or a standard. And that got me thinking like, okay, what if I had on one of my big guys, like my big characters, I have this big dude. He's all mutated and f***ed up and monstrous with his like big patch of pumpkins all over his body, pumpkin patch back. I could just call him Pumpkin Patch. That could be his name, Pumpkin Patch. The Pumpkin Patch has got up and walked away. Pumpkin Patch. Ooh, and then I get props. Scarecrows to Scarecrows. But what if the crows are sort of like props, like little like accent characters on, there's like the crows. It's like when the land is f***ed, is when the crows just sit on the scarecrows. No fear. Put the lantern in that guy's belly. So look how it starts to grow. Like you see, like, okay, here's that idea over there. But then it starts to get nuttier and nuttier. It's not that it necessarily has to become nuttier, but it's useful for you to see the sort of like evolution of the idea. It's like a nuclear arms race of idea. It grows and grows. And like the more variables, the more good variables I have access to, the more elements I can test. I can be like, well, what if I combine these, I like big guy. I like asymmetrical arm. I like Scarecrow back. I like lantern embedded in the, in the rib cage, like in the thorax. So you get a little bit of like a glow. Like maybe it's like a soul in there, or a spirit, or a will-o'-the-wisp. The ghost of Paw. Paw! Oh, that's fun. Just like, what if the Scarecrow had like lashed to his arm a scythe? So he's got this like tattered flannel pumpkin head, covered with straw hat and a crow. And then in his far hand, he's holding a scythe up. It's getting a bit nuts, but can always pull back later. This one is almost like an experiment and like, can I combine it all? Can I take every damn thing and shove it together? Instead of erasing this, because I don't hate it actually, because it's kind of cool. And I like to have the record of the things I've tried, both so I can share with people. And for my own, like sometimes I might find something useful for the future in some of these. So too much going on basically, and I point a little arrow. If you want to be a concept artist, you got to pay attention to this shit. You don't necessarily have to do it just my way. Definitely not. But pay attention to this kind of stuff. Like this is the meat and potatoes of concept art, is thinking. Sharing your ideas, generating ideas, iterating on ideas. You need to be able to just sit and generate ideas forever, all day. You know, and if you're like freaked out about that, like, how am I going to do that? Like, you know how you do that? You develop a process. That's why I do this. You know, having a process can help deal with like anxiety, pressure, stress. So I know if I follow these steps, I'm going to get to something. It may not be the best thing I ever do in my life, but I am going to generate an answer. I'm not going to come up empty-handed. I'm going to come up with something that is like on target, that solves the problem. I'm going to treat it like an exercise, like I'm going through the same kind of exercise I'm encouraging you to go through. It's not that you always have to, but the process of going through it a few times in your life, I think is going to up your game significantly. It's going to make you a lot more sensitive to your ideas, to your shapes. Go ahead and sign this down here when I'm done. I always go and sign my little initial, the old grade. Big fat F. This always makes me laugh a little bit, keep me humble. And you'll see tomorrow's shoot, we're gonna get this. I'm gonna show you how I take my drawings to the computer. It's not rocket science, so I'm just gonna walk you through exactly how I do it. That's part of the point. Exactly the specifications, exact scanner that I use, all my image correction techniques that I use to get the page looking nice. You're just optimizing your drawing. I'm actually gonna like push and pull my values to make things pop. Probably inject a little bit of color. It's pretty fun. Like you can make a page of drawings like this. You can turn it into a kind of like a piece of art, like a portfolio piece. Okay, cool. Okay guys, that's it. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see me develop the next stages of my Harvestmen, you can check out the full course at proko.com/monsterlab.